So. Ah, I'm sure people will be wondering why I'm this excited. Mr. Ibe is here. Thank you,
Oh,
sir.
fantastic.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you here. Like, thank you so much, sir. How
It's
have you
my pleasure.
been?
We bless God. Thank you.
Yeah. How are you managing in this period?
Well, everybody's running away from coronavirus, so we try to dodge.
Ah, yes. Good evening, sir. Okay, so for everyone who is joining, I want to tell you, Mr. Ibe is hailing you, sir. I want to tell you
I
a
dey
little.
hello.
I want to tell you
Ibe my oga.
a little about Mr. Mufu. Sir, I'm not sure you remember this, but when I decided to study art, the first show I went for exhibition, I was taken to that show by the late I call him Baba Ojekere, the late photographer,
Okay,
Pao Ojekere. So he was the one who took
okay,
me. He was like a grandfather for me. So, and you were
okay.
the first artist that I approached and spoke to, and I got a very humbling encounter with you. And since
Wow,
then, you've been like a daddy to me. All the years I've
wow,
known you since
wow.
then. That should be like 2006, I think, and that's a long
I
time.
can't remember.
Thank you.
Yes,
See, but I can't forget.
it's,
Thank you for being an
it's,
impact to us. Thank you so much.
it's my pleasure.
Yeah, so
It's my pleasure.
let's get down to it. People are already joining in. So, um,
Okay,
this is what I usually ask everybody who comes on this conversation is
yeah,
about your background in art. How and where did art start
okay.
for you? How did art start for you, and where did art start for you?
Now, when we talk about art here, are we talking about visual art or
Yes, sir.
literary art or theater art?
No, we're going to come to all that. Actually, I have a question
Yeah,
for all that,
because
but I'm okay. Let's say visual art first, because that's
okay,
the basis of our conversation first.
well, visual art began in primary school for me.
Okay,
I remember I had a competition with a classmate of mine, whom I haven't seen since I left primary school. You
okay, sir.
know, the two of us will go use our feeding money to buy drawing books, and then
Okay,
he will fill up his drawing book, I'll fill up my own, and then we sell it to each other. You can imagine. So that was how I started, you
wow.
know. Then, of course, when I got to secondary school, I never relented on art. As a matter of fact, when I was in secondary school, I was into boxing.
Okay,
Yeah, I was into boxing in a butero. And at a point, I mean, I was a kid, I was between 10, 11 years old. But
okay.
then I was a champion because I beat the most notorious guy. I beat him
Wow,
twice. So
wow.
the third time I didn't bother to practice. Then he beat me silly. So I now decided to go and have my training at a place where you have all the reigning boxers of that time. You know, people like Oganjimo, people like Billy Savage, Jonathan, Dilly Jonathan, and the rest of them. So I decided to go there so that I could register and be able to train properly so I can beat this guy. But I went there too early. I went there, I think, around 2:30. We closed 2 o'clock, and I got there 2:30. And that's when I got to discover that the boxers wouldn't come until around 5 p.m. But I saw a lot of children of my age running all over the place. That's when I discovered that there are so many activities going on. In that, the place is called Ala Koro Training Center.
Okay,
So that was a place for table tennis. I went in there. I felt like these kids are too clean for my liking. All of them looking sparkly. I said, no, I don't belong here. Then I saw a place where people are doing what they call entertainment, dancing and all that. I was like, so I left the place. And then as I climbed upstairs, I saw a lot of children, crowding around a particular guy. I don't know who the guy was, but I saw a lot of photographs on the wall.
okay.
So I went in, and as I was pushing in through, everybody started nudging. Leave me alone. Who is that? And then the man had to tell them to allow me to come into him. So I went in, he saw me, and I was like, what's your name? I introduced myself. Okay, now said, okay, do you like art? I said, yes, I like art. He said, okay, you can call me art master. So when I look at what I thought were photographs, they were actually his paintings.
Wow.
And I love those paintings of bananas, of birds. They were looking very photographic, and I said, oh, I love these things. He said, do you want to paint like that? I said, yes. He said, okay, you can join the class. That was how I jettisoned boxing.
Wow, for art.
Yeah. Wow. So and from that moment, I never relented on art.
Wow.
So I only continued when I got to secondary school, because in secondary school I became the president of the art club.
Okay.
But I was also doing a lot of things in drama, but let's stick to arts now. And I won a UNESCO competition at that time, and then I had to go and join the Saturday Art Club at the National Museum in Onikon.
Okay.
Which I did till I graduated from secondary school. Wow. And luckily for me, when I left secondary school, the first place I worked was a law chamber. And even in that law chamber, everybody was seeing a future lawyer, because there are so many things that happened which I can't talk about now. But then, that's why the fact that I was being praised and all that, my heart was not there. My heart was in a place where I could practice art, until I had to now one day discover the Lagos State Council of Arts and Culture, where I joined an educational theatre workshop for teachers. So I was the only person who wasn't a teacher. Yeah, but they allowed me in.
Okay.
And then I became what they call a utility participant. So at the end of that workshop, I won the overall best participant award.
Wow.
And that was how Lagos State Council of Arts and Culture retained me and employed me. Wow. And that's why I started cutting my teeth as an artist.
Wow. Wow.
So that's the beginning. That's my entrance.
That's a very rich background. Very rich background in art. Well done, sir. Okay, so now this brings me to your multi-talent. At what point did you realize that you were a multi-talent? At what point did you realize that you had all these talents?
I think it was in my secondary school days.
Okay.
Because I was so many things in my secondary school. Number one, I was the social prefect.
Okay.
And you know what that means? That means you have to be able to organize people.
Yes.
That's number one. I was the president of the art club.
Okay.
And that gave me an edge to lead my school, for many competitions which we won.
Okay.
And exhibitions anyway. And then I was the president of the Dramatic Society.
Okay.
So at that point, I will write the play, I will direct the play, I will play the major role. And as a matter of fact, we took part in what they call All Lagos State Secondary School Drama Competition. Okay. And we won second prize. That second prize to our principal was huge, because this was a school that didn't have money. So we kept raising money on our own to be able to go through the preliminaries. We qualified for quarter final, semi-final, final, and then lastly we now won second prize. That was huge for us, So everything started right in my secondary school days. Okay,
sir. Okay, great. Okay, now I'm going to jump ahead of myself before I come back. I think anyone who is a practicing artist would have heard or encountered Araism.
Thank you.
Yes. So I want you to tell us, how did Araism start?
Wow. The story of Araism started way back in 1989. I left the Polytechnic in 1988. That's when we were introduced to different, levels of art, particularly in art history. We were very rich in art history at that level, OND. And, having been introduced to different kinds of artists of the West, people like Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and the rest of them. By the time I left the Polytechnic in 1988,
okay, sir.
My thinking was, if I really want to be known as an artist, I need to create something totally different. And I knew that if I had to paint like any other person, let me use an example now. If I had to paint like Olaku or Oshinowo, I mean, these are masters ahead of me. If I had to paint like them, I will only be like them. I will not be Mufu Onifade. And my concern was to be able to be Mufu Onifade. So I was in that dilemma for complete a year, all through 1988 and then entering into 1989. So in 1989, I decided to be more proactive in my thinking. So I decided to go into an experiment. Even though at the beginning I didn't know what name to call it, but I went into an experiment that I thought would probably last me 6 months. But then it went on for 7 years eventually.
Wow.
Yes, and so while I was developing the artistic content of Araism, I was also developing the philosophical depth of it. So, and then by 1996, I'd concluded everything. And I now decided to do the launching in 1998. And since 1998, I mean, Araism has never looked back. Let me put it that way.
Wow. Okay, sir. So I'm coming. There were some things you said that I'm trying to write down, so I don't forget the question I'm going to ask on it. All right. So I'm going to ask 2 questions now. How did Araism become a recognized movement? Okay. Then what was answer that first, sir. So I'll ask the second one is anything.
You know, when you have a very good idea, especially artistic idea, creative idea, if you don't execute it, you're not the only one having it. You know, the winds are taking it to other places, other people, and that's why you can find some similarities in some people's creativity. And we're talking about people who have never met before. Maybe somebody based in Lagos, the other based in Abuja. You know, some of them can paint mother and child the same way, and you'll be wondering, oh, this is my idea, but you've never come into contact. So I have that fear that if I didn't start working on Araism, it might fly to another person. So after the launching in 1998, I decided that now that I've done the launching, I'm not going to keep this to myself. So I decided to open it up by bringing in students that I started training. So the training of so many other artists really, assisted in expanding it. And then by 2006, I decided that now that I've trained, as at 2006, I must have trained not less than 40 students.
Wow.
So out of these 40 students, I decided to select the best and join them to myself. So I think I selected 5, added myself, to them, making 6. And I decided to do the launching of the Araism movement. So when we did the launching of Araism movement, it attracted a wide patronage. And then also because I kept taking in students and I was teaching them, some of them were in school, some of them are about to go to school. So when they returned to school or while they are in school, they decided to do Araism for their projects. So that also was propagating it. And that was a phenomenon that really gave Araism the kind of popularity it has received. It's simply because I didn't keep the talent to myself. I didn't keep the creativity to myself. I kept sharing it with other people. And I learned that particular philosophy from the man who taught me painting on animal skin, that's Lemaguia of Ethiopia. He trained me way back in 1992 when I went to Ethiopia, and I remember that at the mini exhibition that was organized for me, attended by 5 ambassadors, in a place called Debrecen. Now they call the place Bishoftu. Lemaguia advised publicly and openly, and that advice was also joined by Ambassador Segun Lushola. They were saying that when you have a creative idea, never keep it to yourself. always allow other people to come into, share with other people. Don't be selfish.
Okay, sir.
So that also guided me in taking my decision as far as how I was going to allow Araism Movement to expand further than I ever expected.
Okay, sir.
So, yeah, that's the whole idea.
Okay. Mr. Olapu is here.
My Oga, you're welcome, sir. Incidentally, Ms. Olapu is one of the people we used to see ahead of us, while we were growing up as an artist. And to know him one-on-one and to have worked with him on so many projects is a great privilege. You're welcome, sir, my Oga.
Okay, sir. Okay, so based on what you said, I would like to ask, what was the biggest opposing force that you encountered in making Araism a movement? Making Araism a movement. The biggest opposing force you encountered.
Okay, let me call them stumbling blocks.
Okay.
There are so many of them. I can't have the greatest. I have many of them, and all of them are great in their own, because if I'd succumbed to such stumbling blocks, maybe there would have been nothing like Araism.
Okay.
Number one, when I started, none of my close friends who are always coming to my studio, none of them ever believed that any experiment of that magnitude will lead anywhere. In fact, they condemned it at the beginning. And I kept saying, well, to myself, you have to move on. If you believe in this thing, go ahead. That's the first one. The second one was after I'd started and got it properly established, I needed to, further my education. So I remember, I hardly tell this story, but I'm going to tell it today. I remember that I applied to Yaba Tech for my HND. My idea was to go to university, but I realized that I've stayed so much at home after my OND, certificate. So then I decided to go to Yaba Tech. And when you go to Yaba Tech, those who attended that school, I'm sure Mr. Laku will bear me witness. When you want to enter Yaba Tech, just like any other polytechnic, there are 2 types of exams that you must do. The first one is the practical exam, where a model will be posed for you, and then you draw the model. And then the second one is the oral interview, where you go in with some of your works. You have to go with a portfolio.
Okay.
So I went in with an art piece that was done in Araism. And when I got to that table where that guy was to interview me, I brought out a piece in Araism, put it on his table, and then the lecturer flung it away. Well, luckily today the lecturer is my friend, but I'm not going to disclose him. So he flung the work away, and I was trying to, say that, look, this is a new innovation. The guy did not even hear. He just said, which other word do you have? But luckily for me, I had some work done in conventional style, of painting. So I brought those ones out. He said, hey, this is better. Where did you get that rubbish from? And then by the time the admission list came out, my name was second on the list. But I declined the admission because I told myself, yes, I did. I declined it. I told myself, these guys will not allow me to grow at the level of the kind of creativity that I want to grow in.
Okay.
They want me to be pigeonholed. I hate to be pigeonholed. I like to be free. So that's why I didn't go to Yaba Tech.
Okay.
Then the following year, I sought my admission to University of Benin. Okay, and I mean, as a direct entry student. And at that time, I used to produce some clothes that I wore myself. I'll do the design myself and put some elements of Araism on the clothes. So I wore one of the clothes to, is it the Kenwa campus?
Okay.
And the guy in charge of admission, was to kind of interview me. So said I should bring out my works, where I showed to him. He said, oh, these are beautiful works. And then he saw that top that I was wearing, and he said, where did you buy this? I said, no, I didn't buy it. I made it myself. He said, oh, okay. Can you make one for me? And I said, oh, I can make 2. And the guy said, "Oh, I'll be glad." So, and he assured me that you already have admission here because you have the quality that we want here. And I thank him. So I went for after like a month. A friend of mine was already a student in Benin, the final department in Benin, now came to my studio in Lagos and said, "Oh, do you know Mr. So?" I said, "Yes, I think I met him. He was on who interviewed me." He said, "The man said I should tell you that if you know you want to gain admission to Uniben, you should send the clothes that you promised." And I asked my friend, "When are you getting back?" He said, "We'll be going back next week." I said, "Okay, when you get back to Uniben, please tell the guy that I should hold his admission." So I jettisoned that admission as well. Yes. So the following year, the following year, the same work that I took to Yaba Tech that was flung away, and I put it as part of my portfolio when I was applying to IFE. And then I went to IFE. And then Mr. Aremu, who is now Professor Aremu, when I placed my work on his table, he singled out that work in Araism and said, "Who made this work?" I said, "Sir, it's my work." He said, "Okay, just hold on, I'm coming." Then he went in to call other lecturers, I think about 3 of them. All of them came back to his office. He said they should look at that work. And then everybody looked at it, they shook their head in agreement and were like, "Oh, this is beautiful." And the man said, "You see, these are the kind of students which will be taken in Ife, that he has the creativity that will make him a good ambassador of Ife." No. Then the next thing just faced me. He said, "You have the admission." So when I left, I told myself, yes, this is a school that will allow me the kind of freedom that I wanted.
They are here. Ife people.
And so that was how I gained admission, to Ife. And then, of course, by the time I finished from Ife, I won the best student prize. And the rest, as they say, is history.
History, wow.
So part of the other stumbling block, because that's where we are, is also that some of my friends who are lecturers, their students will tell them, "Oh, I want to, carry out my project in Araism." And you say, "Well, that's rubbish, that rubbish technique. No, we are not doing it." Yeah, lecturer will discourage students. And some of these students will still come back.
To that,
yeah, they come to tell me, they say, "Oga, I thought Mr. So or Dr. So is your friend." I say, "Yes, he's my very good friend." They say, "No, that discouraged me from doing Araism. I just such reports a lot." Wow. And I will see meet the person later, and we are still good friends. I mean, I don't hold it against anybody, but these are, the stumbling blocks. But you see, the truth of the matter is that these stumbling blocks also gave me, also became my factor of successes. Wow. Because I was never discouraged. We kept on doing what we knew how to do. We were never discouraged. And that's how we were able to, get to the level we are.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. What you said, you made a statement about lecturers telling students that the Araism style is a rubbish style. So it's still going to bring me to a particular question. I was going to ask you questions on the art school, because I know that you have degrees, like institution. So we are coming to that. But before that, I would like to ask, as an artist who is not just an artist, who is a multi-talent, how do you make out time? Like, okay, using myself as an example, I'm also a writer and a musician. But there are times when I get a feeling that won't people be looking at you like a jack of all trades? Yeah. I usually have that fear. So when people ask me, so what are you doing about music? I'll say I sing in church. So, sir, how have you been able to master all this? Have time to be an artist, to write, to still be a playwright, be a writer. How do you have time? How do you make out time for all that? So, and what are you going to tell an artist who is not just an artist, who is a multi-talent? I have lots of them here already who are multi-talent. How you handle all that?
Yeah. Let me tell you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let me tell you something. I'm very happy that Ibe and Anaba is in the house, because the last time you engaged him, he made a statement which I agree with completely. But maybe some people will not understand. So I still want to re-echo, that philosophy that he projected at that time.
Okay, sir.
You see, when any form of creativity hits you, you can't be restful until that creativity is executed. That's what Ibe was trying to say, and I agree with him. I receive inspirations a lot. It could come in form of visual art, my painting. It could come in form of poetry. It could come in form of my literary work, prose. It could also come in form of a play. So I keep receiving, but in most cases, what I do is that once I receive that kind of inspiration, I try to put it down in a sketchy form.
Okay.
And that assists me. Yeah, that assists me a lot. For instance, I have a sketch pad, and then I have a jotter, which I do. What I do there is what I call random jotting.
Okay.
Random jottings.
Okay.
Let me give an example. I was working on one of my novels. I wanted that novel, to actually come out this year, and I've actually completed work on it. But I was working on it, and then an idea just struck me that I could actually do a painting titled Ajé. Ajé in Yoruba is the goddess of wealth. And my paintings are usually based on all those traditional stuff. So I abandoned the novel I was working on my laptop.
Okay, sir.
And I went inside, took my sketch pad, and I did a quick sketch of how it's going to look like.
Okay.
And I know, having done that, I've captured it. I put it aside. So that's one approach. When the creativity comes, you grab it and work on it. Don't procrastinate. Number 2 is that I have a time frame for everything I do. For instance, now, if I'm working on certain paintings, my mind is set on a particular exhibition.
Okay.
When I'm working on a particular play, I have in mind when I would like to publish it.
Okay.
When I'm working on a novel, I have in mind when I'm going to get it published. And I know that to publish, it will still have to go through some other processes. Like getting somebody to look through it. We call it assessment. Somebody will have to help you assess. And then after assessing, they let you know if it's something publishable or if it's not publishable. And thank God, every work I've published, I've received, positive appraisals. And also, thank God, every artwork I've produced, when I show them at my shows, the only time you see me that I become very regimented, let me use that word, regimented, is when I have a deadline. Maybe somebody commissions me to do a painting and wants to collect the painting in the next 1 month. That one, I'll become regimented to it. Or maybe somebody is having an exhibition, and I'm sure Ms. Olaku has felt this, from me a couple of times. There's going to be an exhibition, and they probably want me to do an essay that's going to feature in the catalog.
Okay.
I mean, at that level, I needed to know what deadline do you have. Someone like Ms. Olaku can say, "Hey, Mufu, you don't have more than 2 weeks." I have to work. And I mean, most of my clients are always amazed at how I was able to always make sure that I don't work beyond outside deadline. So these are the regimented kind of life that I've structured for myself to be able to cope with the various sort of talent that God has given me. Chivolu Shola told me something, and I think it was right. He said, if you have one talent, you have so many demands on that one talent. So when you now have multiple talents, you have multiplicity of demands on all the talents. So as a creative person, you must be able to structure yourself in order to satisfy all of them. Otherwise, you might easily be driven away by procrastination. Something like, I'll do the work tomorrow. I can't do it today. And as they say, procrastination is the thief of time. Before you know what's happening, and I hate to procrastinate. That's one of the things I hate most in my life. And I think hating it has actually made me to be much more productive. You know, a lot of people don't know that I still paint. They don't know. It's only when they see me at exhibition, they see new works at exhibition, they say, "Oh, so you still paint?" And I'll be like, what are you talking about? And these are the same people who will see me submit a write-up for a particular exhibition or stage my play or another person, because you know I'm also a theater producer. So I still create time to produce other people's work and all that. So for me, that is the way I've been able to manage myself.
Wow. That's a lot to wrap my head around. We are working towards it. I'm young. I'm sure there are other multi-talent here who are trying to, especially for our own generation. Yes. Okay, sir. So I'm going to deviate a little. Okay. I'd like for you to, like you said earlier, that your art, your painting try to depict culture. So I want to ask, do you think our culture affects our art in every sphere? Do you think our culture as Africans, as Nigerians, what's the impact of the culture on the kind of art we produce?
Okay, as they say, what is culture? If you're going to ask, culture has a very simple definition. It's a way of life. But culture has so many faces as well, and that's why in a particular culture you see find what they call culture shock. What am I talking about? For instance, now somebody told me that there are some parts of Nigeria where if they receive you as a guest, your host will present his wife for you.
Yes.
Now, in Yoruba land, I'm a Yoruba man. That's a culture shock for me. It will shock me that, oh, how can that happen? Whereas some of the things that I do in Yoruba land, if you go to some other part of Nigeria and you tell them, oh, they do that in Yoruba land, it comes to them as a shock as well. But one of the things that one should avoid is to make your culture look absolutely superior to other cultures. You know, that's one thing I don't project. The only thing I try to do is to look inward, because I have a full grasp of Yoruba culture. It will be difficult for me not to project it well. And then because I don't have a full grasp of some other cultures, it will be difficult for me to go and project something that I don't understand.
Okay.
So even if I want to project the northern culture, for instance, it will be something that I understand in and out. And that will probably be because of the fact that I've traveled all over parts of Nigeria, in the course of my years as a performing artist. Because we used to perform all over the place, all over Nigeria before we started traveling outside Nigeria for performance. So I tried to study their culture. Now, what am I trying to say? There's no way you produce any kind of art, whether visual art, whether literary art, that you are going to, produce outside of your way of life. Because culture is a way of life, like I said. You are inspired by the things around you. You are inspired by your environment. What constitutes your environment is your culture. So it will be difficult for you to do anything outside of it. If you want to enhance your culture, if you want to take a derivative or from diversification of culture, it has to be that you must. I saw some of the paintings by, Ibe and Anaba, and I saw that it was trying to capture some new millennium tendencies, which may freak you out. You'll be like, this is a kind of modern, extremely modern. But there are realities. There are the things that happen around us, or maybe some things you travel out and you see. Let me give an example. When I traveled to South Africa, when I was doing my residency program in South Africa, the first painting I did, I call it Stranger Among Masks.
Okay.
And what did I do? This came from my inspiration. And the inspiration is that if you find yourself on a strange land, everybody you see is like a mask. Because you don't know them. You can never know. If you see a masquerade, for instance, you can never know the person inside the person behind the mask. You can't know the person unless the person comes close to you and mentions his name, which is a rare occurrence. So every other person you see around, on that strange land where you find yourself, is like a mask. Then I purposely created some half masks. Now, what do I mean by half mask? When you look at some people in a strange land, you see them, and then you start telling yourself, it's like, I know this guy somewhere. You don't know. It probably looks like someone you have met before. So those are people I represented in half mask. Then there's a large mask in the background, and that large mask actually represents your ancestors. And what is the relevance of the ancestor in all of this? Is that if you are good natured, if you are somebody who observes and keeps the rules, your ancestor will always be behind you.
Okay.
As long as you do things that are legal, things that are moral, as long as you don't do anything that's against the state. But the moment you go the opposite way, for instance, you go into internet fraud.
Okay.
I'm just using an example. Or you go into armed robbery in a strange land. The first people that will leave you are your ancestors. Because you are working against even their own preachings to you. You are working against the reason why they keep supporting you. So once they leave you, there's no way you will not be caught. And that will be the consequence. You understand? So my painting is taken from the environmental culture of the South African environment where I found myself at that time.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Now I understand.
Your culture, your environment influences or inspires you in what you produce as an artist, whether you are a visual artist. I can give an example. If you look at the plays of Wole Soyinka, for instance, just take one example. Look at The Death and the King's Horseman. It talks about the story of what people call Abobaku. Abobaku is a cultural phenomenon in Yoruba land. Although it's no longer in existence, but it has existed before. Or if you look at maybe a work of someone like Femi Osofison, who wrote Who's Afraid of Sholarin, which was later translated to Yekwa Sholarinbo. The play is about, even though he had written the play as far back as 1972, but it addresses the issue of corruption. Now, what the play addressed at that time is even worse now. Do you understand? So your environment, the culture of your environment will naturally influence your art. That's what I'm just trying to say. So there's no way you can divorce one from the other. And that's the summary of my argument.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I was caught up in all that. Okay. Well, the thing about the narrative is it's a swinging pendulum of conversation. So you would see me moving from one sphere of the art to the other.
No problem.
All right. So now, before I go into, there's another interesting question, but I want to ask. It's a question I've asked everyone who has been here.
Okay.
It's about in this part of the society, who are the major stakeholders when it comes to the arts? We know Mr. Ibe established last week also that the artist is the first point of call. So to you, sir, who are the major stakeholders? and what is their impact on the welfare of the artist? This I'm sorry, sir. Sorry, before you go on, like the reason I'm also asking you this question is we realize that a lot of we younger artists have buyers come to us. Some of them are dealers. Most of us do not question these prospects.
Yeah.
Then at the end of the day, we regret doing that business. So of all these stakeholders, who are they, and how do they look out for the welfare of the artists?
Okay, maybe the way I'm going to answer the question may be a bit different from the way eBay answered it.
Okay, sir.
And it's not because I have better knowledge than eBay. eBay is a
sir.
fantastic guy. I respect him a lot. You see, when you talk about stakeholders, there are no major and there are no minor.
Okay, sir.
A stakeholder is a stakeholder. And there's a long list of stakeholders. I agree that yes, artist is the first point, because if the artist does not produce, there's nothing to discuss.
Yes.
There's nothing to have stake on.
Yes, sir.
You understand?
Yes.
So the artist is number one. Then I won't tell you this is number two, but I'll just list all the others in no particular order.
Okay.
When an artist produces his work, the man who sells art materials is a stakeholder.
Okay.
The guy who probably helps an artist to transport art materials from one place to another until the materials reaches his studio is a stakeholder.
Okay.
The man who frames the works or who mounts the work on pedestal is a stakeholder. The man who comes around or woman who comes around to buy the works of the artist is a stakeholder. The one who does not buy but promotes, and you have many of them, they promote the artist in various ways. Some by merely talking, some by writing about them, some by showing the pictures of the work, some by publishing them. They are also stakeholders. Then you now have galleries or gallery owners.
Okay.
They are also major stakeholders, or let me say they are stakeholders. And then you have government. The essence of government is actually not to be stakeholders, but to coordinate, to provide enabling environment for the operation of all these stakeholders that I've just listed out.
Okay.
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For instance, if there's no government policy to say that, I want to give an example now. Assuming there's a government policy that says that every public building in Nigeria, if this is a public building and they are spending 10 billion naira to build it, 10% of that money must be reserved on one side to acquire artworks for the artistic embellishments of the building. If there is no such policy, it will be very difficult to hold anybody, to it. You will not be able to. You will not be able to go to anybody and say, "Hey, you are supposed to do this, but you are not doing it." If there is no effective coordination as to provide an enabling environment, have in mind.
The network.
I want to make a statue of, I want to mention somebody. Maybe, for instance, a very notable person. Let me use an example of Mike Adenuga. To say that, I want to make a portrait of Mike Adenuga and then erect it at this particular junction. If you do not have government backing or a policy from government that supports that, you will only end up producing the work and keep it in your studio or take it to Adenuga's house. So this is where government is very important, very crucial to the development of the activities of stakeholders in general.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is that there are no major stakeholders. Everybody is a stakeholder because everybody is very useful in the affairs of the arts. of a particular country. So that's my own submission as far as. Then concerning the question of, you raised a question about the young artists to be able to know, who to allow to patronize them and all that.
So, yes, the welfare of the artist. Who looks, which of the stakeholders?
Whether you operate in Nigeria, whether you operate in the US, whether you operate in the UK, the truth is that at the early stage of your career, you must fall mugun, whether you like it or not.
Wow.
You fall mugun. You now learn from it and will never fall again.
Wow.
There's nobody would. If you listen to Mr. Laku, we discussed. Mr. Laku has fallen before he now learns his lesson. I fell before I learned my lesson, and I have so many artists who have told me story. The chairman of Universal Studio, but Pastor Babatunde also fell. I remember there was a time I was discussing with Baba Bisfake, may God rest his soul. He also fell. So every artist will fall and learn to rise, never to fall again. Let me give you an example. In my university days, I took some artwork to one of my patrons in Ikeja, and I went with about 5 works. And then, that time I didn't have a car. You put work in your portfolio and keep it under your armpit, and then you go and carry. And then this man bought one work. On my way back, I saw somebody that I've never met in my life, and he said, "Oh, you're an artist? Please come." And I took me to his compound, looked at the 4 works, and he said, "Oh, how much is each one?" I gave him the price, and he said, "I want to buy all of them."
Okay.
I was elated. I was a university student. I needed money, And this guy collected all the 4 works and asked me to come back in 2 weeks' time. Then in 2 weeks, I went back. You know what happened? The man had to go and call the police to come and arrest me. That was disturbing his peace.
Wow.
Yeah. That I was disturbing his peace. And then the police were ready to arrest me. And I asked them, "Where are you taking me to?" They said, "They are taking me to, the guy went to take them from a checkpoint. They said, "They are taking me to that checkpoint because that's where the Oga will send them. That's where he's waiting." And I told them that I'm not going to any checkpoint. I would like to go to your station. He said, "Why?" I said, "Because this man bought my artwork and he has not paid me. And instead of paying me, he came to call you guys."
Wow.
And the police were shocked because that wasn't what he told them. So before I left that day, because he still didn't have money, he had to do an undertaking that on so day he will pay the money. And I said, "Okay, on that day I will not be able to come because this was Lagos. I was schooling at Ife." I gave him the name of the person who will come and collect the money on my behalf. And luckily for me, that person I talked to, my very close friend, behaves like a thug. So on the assigned day, he said I should tell the guy to come at 10 o'clock. And this my friend went there at 7 o'clock in the morning. And he went straight to his door, knocked on it, bang, 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 bang. Then the guy opened his door, said, "Yes." He said, "I am from Mufu Onifade." He said, "But I told him 10 o'clock." He said, "Yes, I know it's 10 o'clock. I just want you to know that I'll be waiting at the gate." So,
wow.
By 10 o'clock, when the guy came out, he was still telling stories. And then he wanted to start rubbishing my friend. And then my friend gave him a slap. Yes, he ran back into his flat. And the guy took a box, like a stool, put it by the door, and sat down there. You're not going anywhere. Eventually, he had to send his wife to go and collect the money somewhere else. And then brought the money, and my friend collected the money. Now I fell, and that was the only and the last time. I've never fallen again since then.
But because if you didn't have that kind of friend, you would never have gotten that money.
Of course, yes. So every young artist will fall, but they will rise again, and they will never fall again.
Okay, noted. Wow. Okay, so the basis of this is no stakeholder is looking out for the welfare of the artist. The artist has to look out for his own welfare.
There are only few. If you are talking in terms of the welfare of the artist, there are very, very few. I don't know, maybe if you have 100 patrons, maybe those who care much more about the welfare of the artist, maybe 2 or 3. Because like I've come to realize, every art patron is interested in their relationship. You paint or you produce work for me, I pay you. Relationship ends there.
That's all. Wow.
The man who taught me fine art in my secondary school days, his name is Manalafia. I brought him to me. Luckily for me, Mr. Laku knew him very well. When this man, wanted to, the man was living at Abule Jesha, and then this rich man, a patron, just came to give him some work. When he saw the beauty of the work, he told my Oga that he would like him to move to Ikoyi, where he has an apartment. My Oga was very excited, and then he moved to Ikoyi. It was after moving to Ikoyi, he discovered that all the man wanted to do is for this my Oga produce work, then he will collect the work, sell it and keep the money. Yeah. So my Oga at first thought that this man was interested in my welfare. But there was nothing welfareic in this matter. The man is just as selfish to himself as he is to the artwork, not even the artist. So eventually, the man had to pack his things and return to Abule Jesha.
Okay. Wow.
So the only few who can claim to be very concerned about the welfare of the artist, there are very few. These are people who, and I think Mr. Laku is very lucky to have 1 or 2 of such people, because he told me so, but I won't mention him. I have never been lucky to have such a person. Yeah, most of the patrons I have, you produce your work, I commission you, deliver the work, get your money, and
that's
me
all.
Too. I know my size. I know my boundaries, so I won't even, I'll step it. You understand? So it's only few. I won't be able to talk about those who are concerned about your welfare. In fact, the only person I can remember that I know was probably, concerned about my welfare as an artist is late.
Wow.
And I have to give it to him, and that's Professor Olusegun Adewoye. It's late now, because I remember this man has been collecting my work right from my university days.
Wow.
I mean, the man worked to me. I mean, as a student, you always need financial support.
Yes, true.
So the man just came in and said, "Look, Mufu, any artwork that you have, any artwork at all, bring it to me." So this was how I sustained myself all through school. When I take my artwork to him, the man will just count how many, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you give him the price. There's nothing like, please come back and see me next week.
He pays.
And I remember when I did the launching of Araism Movement, we appointed him as a special guest patron. Apart from collecting works of everybody who participated in that maiden exhibition of the movement, he also gave us money to sustain the movement. They are rare. They are rare to find. You understand?
Wow. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to be asking my pendulum questions. Okay. So should my work as an artist, not just as an artist now, as a creative, because we have been able to establish how much of a multi-talent you are in the arts, theater and all that. So should my work as a creative comment on social or political issues? Must my work comment on social or political issues? Because there are people who usually say they do art for art's sake, and some people say they do art to functional art. So must my work as a creative generally comment on social and political issues?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. There's no compulsion to the direction of creativity.
Okay.
There's no what your creativity should drive.
Yes, no compulsion.
It's a free enterprise. Your creativity is a free enterprise. You choose what you want to focus on. It may be a social commentary, it may be political commentary, it may be, a fusion of tradition and modernity. It all depends on you as an artist. An artist should decide what he wants to be projecting. I mean, for instance, if you take Fela and Sunny Ade, for instance, these are two great musicians, but their directions are different.
Okay.
Of course, Fela is extremely political, while Sunny Ade is social.
Okay.
The same thing when you look at paintings, for instance. Let's look at the works of Olaku, Dedon Laku, for instance, and then look at the works of who can I give as an example that's in juxtaposition? There's no artist that comes to mind right now.
This Tantua. I think his works can be political at times.
Like Tantua, for instance.
Yes.
If you look at the two, put them side by side, you discover that their visions are different. Although they are both using creativity as a driver of their art, but the directions are different, the visions are different. Reason that one is so is because there is no compulsion in creative enterprise.
Okay, sir. No compulsion.
You can afford to be a fantastic artist who can capture political happenstances very well, and then you decide that no, I don't want to go in that direction, and you don't. So there's no compulsion. That's just my summary.
Okay, sir. Let me ask a question that someone asked before I ask the other questions. The person says, how much does the government support the arts? I guess it was from what we're talking about, the welfare of the artists. It says, how much does the government support the arts?
Well, it will be very difficult for me to speak on behalf of government. I want to be able to talk on behalf of government, but we need to realize that government has put certain things in place. You remember what they call the cultural policy that the government put in place, and they've started implementing since 1990. It is through this cultural policy that we're able to have the establishment of the National Gallery of Arts for the visual artists. We also have the National Council for Arts and Culture. You understand? These are different levels of parastatals in the arts that are designed to take care of certain aspects. You talk about National Gallery of Art, it takes care of visual art. You talk about National Council for Arts and Culture, it takes care of crafts and other aspects of art. You talk about NICO, for instance, National Institute for Cultural Orientation. They take care of intellectual aspect of art and so on and so forth. These are the areas where government have created enabling environment for the artists. A lot of people should not look at government support from the point of money, because there are certain things that money cannot buy. So that's the mistake a lot of us make. When you are talking about government support, you're always thinking about money. It is not every time that government can give you money.
All right, sir.
Do you know that the establishment of the National Gallery of Art was also as a result of the hard work of people like Dele Jegede, who was the president of Society of Nigerian Artists at that time. It's because of their agitation. If these people were just interested in money and they go to government and collect money, there probably would have been no National Gallery of Art, because they would have collected money and pocketed it.
True.
And they would have spent it, and nothing substantial would have happened. But they are selfless. They were looking at the future of art. How will the coming artists, benefit from an idea? And so they push for the inclusion of National Gallery of Modern Art within the structure of the National Theatre, which was where the National Gallery started from. And then when they discovered that they were able to achieve that, they decided to push further. That they wanted a parastatal on its own that would be called the National Gallery of Art, so that it can receive, its own autonomy. And government were able to yield because they were dealing with serious-minded, art association people. These are people who are serious what they are doing. They know exactly what fellow artists will need, and they push for it to government, and government accepted it, and then they got it done. So for me, that's government support.
Okay.
So the support of government that everybody can enjoy at all levels is creating an enabling environment. It could be through infrastructure, it could be through policies and all that. But if you are looking at it from the point of money, I can assure you, not everybody, will benefit from it. If, for instance, you are looking at the national collection, for instance, where the federal government, has acquired a huge number of works from artists. If you go and count all the works, I'm just giving an example. If you have 5,000 works in the collection of the government called the national collection, I'm just giving an example. If you have 5,000, it still cannot cover the number of artists we have in Nigeria. So, which means government, it will be difficult for government to patronize everybody at the level of spending money.
True.
So, artists should not see government support from the point of money, because money can never go around. Even in other industries, for instance, Nollywood. When you talk about Nollywood, people think Nollywood is a money spending machine. Yes, but do you know that in the last era of governance, most of the people who went to meet government on behalf of Nollywood and collected money at a personal level, today they have nothing to show for it, because individuals have collected the money and spent it. Whereas when as a convener of Kona is Coalition of Nigerian Artists, I was the convener. I was the one rallying everybody, all the arts associations like NANTAP, like SNA, like ANTP, like PMAN, like DGN, Director Guild of Nigeria, like Gondas Guild of Nigeria, and so on and so forth. Put all of them together. I personally coordinated all the activities. It is our coming together that thwarted government's effort towards selling off the National Theatre.
Wow.
So for me, because government had already made up their mind, they're going to, and this started from President Obasanjo's regime. And then when he left, as soon as President Yaradua came in, those who wanted to sell National Theatre started pushing for it again. And then we went back again and fought. And then President Yaradua personally requested for the file of National Theatre and placed on his table that nobody should never talk about selling it. And then in 2007, 2007, the President Jonathan was seeking re-election, and then at that time, was it 2007? I think so. Let me say, I can't remember the year now. Now decided again to invite all stakeholders, and then they invited us to a meeting. I, myself, German and Nikolapo, and a few other people, we came together on the platform of Kona to rally everybody. We went to, and you see, let me tell you something very fantastic about that meeting. Because we were able to get every representative of various industries to speak to government. And I'll give you some examples. The people in the literary world, Association of Nigerian artist resorts, where writers can go and do their writing and all that.
Okay.
The people from the platform of the film industry, led by Tode Kelani, came and demanded that government should build cinemas across local governments. And then I remember the man who spoke on behalf of NANTAP was telling government that they should not sell the National Theatre, which is where I was coming. And then we had the former convener of Coalition of Nigerian Artists, and that is Mr. Benton Moloju, who came to do a summary of everybody's presentation. And I remember President Goodluck Jonathan came to address everybody and promised that the government will not sell the National Theatre and that all the points raised will be looked into. And in fairness to President Jonathan, I think immediately after that meeting, he invited the chief executive of culture of various parastatals under the Ministry of Culture, brought all of them together and told them to present position paper so that government can work on. But the next thing we heard after that was that government wanted to sell National Theatre again, until, of course, the members of the industry rose again and put a stop to it. But you see, after that, what happened was that instead of these associations and guilds to go to government and push their demands, something structural, something infrastructural, some of them went and started asking for money. And they got the money. They got the money. And at the end of it, what happened? They blew the money, and nothing developmental happened to the industry. So that's what I'm saying, that money can never solve the problems of artists. It is ideas and government backing in terms of policy that will solve the problems of patronage of the artists, especially from the level of government.
Wow, sir. Okay, from everything you said, like, thank you so much for touching on all that you touched on just now on this question. Because I had a question I was going to ask you about arts funding from the government.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I think in your answer now, you have answered a little. But also, I was going to ask you, if the government decides to sell the National Theatre, is it possible that it's because the National Theatre, the National Galleries, the National Museums are not being maintained properly? Like, for example, the National Gallery in the National Theatre, every time we go there, we still see the same body of works, the same from how many years? Like, there's not, they collect 20 naira for you to enter that place. 20 naira, it's a shame, sir. Well, I'm saying on my own, like, it's a shame that I want to enter into the National Gallery and I have to pay 20 naira. So what can we do? I don't know how to ask the question properly, seriously, because I'm so filled with all that you have said. So what's going to happen? What's with the maintenance of these galleries? We need them as a body. That sir, the visual artists are so disrespected. There's so much disrespect for the visual artists in this part of the world. So what do we do to maintain this?
Let me tell you, if anybody is talking in terms of scrapping either the National Theatre, the National Museum, or the National Gallery, I can tell you, beheading antidote to headache. You cannot say because you're having a headache and then you're going to cut off the head. No, if you have a headache, your head is still your head, but you find a solution around it. If Panadol does not work, look for a stronger stuff. Well, if the problem of the headache is actually from the heart, what you need to do is to find a means of healing the heart, and then the head will be restful. We are, no matter what anybody says, we still need the National Theatre.
Yes,
we need the National Gallery of Arts. We need the National Museum. We need NICO. We need every one of them. Now, government is talking about merger. Wants to merge some parastatal with some others.
Okay.
Maybe if that happens, maybe we will see the kind of effective coordination that all of us have been expecting. Maybe if merger happens, maybe government will be able to concentrate on fewer agencies of government and not be able to pump money into it. I think if the artists are disrespected, then the artists themselves should look inward. I mean, the artists have an association, right? We have the Society of Nigerian Artists. We have received, I mean, we've listened to different kind of complaints from the Society of Nigerian Artists.
Okay.
But I can tell you, there's much less of complaints you get from the Guild of Professional Fine Artists of Nigeria, GFA. You know why? And I'm saying this in all authority. The GFA is better well coordinated than the Society of Nigerian Artists.
Okay, sir.
Now, the difference between SNA and GFA, and I'll tell you this, is that when members appoint the president or the chairman at the state level, the moment they have the heads in the executive in place, everybody goes to sleep.
Okay.
If the executive does not do anything, the members also don't do anything. And don't forget the individualistic nature of the artist. Each artist will receive to his studio and then go and producing work. As long as you are not stopping him from producing his work, nothing is bad.
Yes.
Do you understand? Whereas in GFA, if the GFA says want to have an exhibition on so day, everybody's hand is, on the deck. They do not leave the problem to the president or the ESCO alone.
Okay.
And then I can even tell you that at SNA level, what you pay as annual due as a member of SNA cannot be compared with what you pay as a member of GFA. I'm not a member of GFA, but I'm an insider. I know that what the GFA pays, you can't compare with what you pay. If SNA tries to raise annual dues to that level that GFA, collects, I'm sure there will be riots of artists. Artists will go on the streets, I can assure you. So what am I trying to say? The artists want development, but they don't want to sacrifice for the development.
Okay.
I mentioned the issue of Dele Jegede. When the likes of Dele Jegede were sacrificing for the entire artist, they are not looking at what they are going to gain immediately. They are looking at things that will benefit the artists in the future. Now, how many artists think of that right now? Many of them think about what I can benefit right now. Right now. You want to buy my work, you want me to go and deliver work somewhere and you pay the money to my account right away. That's what we want. You won't look at what can I invest, not even in terms of money, but in terms of participation at discourses. Because it's from the level of discussion that intellectualism is engendered. It's from that level that ideas are developed. The kind of ideas that will generate development for everybody. That's where it's going to develop. It's not going to develop from sitting down in the studio and painting alone. It's not going to develop from. It's not going to develop from going to attend a friend's exhibition. If you go to attend a friend's exhibition, it's just for you to see the beauty of the guy's work. Because as an artist, you will not even patronize anyway. You won't buy, but you go there and eat the small chops and then shake the guy's hand. Oh, lovely show, and then you go back to your studio. Let's face it, apart from your presence, what have you contributed to that show? Whereas, if at that show, there's a kind of, discourses, you can be part of that discourse to be able to generate idea that will benefit everybody.
Okay, sir.
You understand what I'm saying? So, for me, that is my own idea. So we need to look at the long-term gains of whatever we do. It is not enough for you to be a good artist who can look at Mr. Olaku, for instance. Doesn't he? I mean, do you know what Olaku's work commands in the market? But this man will make himself available to discuss issues that are germane to artistic development of the country.
Yes.
I mean, people will go and engage him, and then he will go and meet some people and discuss it.
Yes.
If every artist can be like that, or look at someone like Mr. Oshinowo. When Mr. Oshinowo became the president of SNA, the SNA was already dead before he came in. I remember when he invited some of us that we should The man before that time, if you know how many years ago the SNA National had held any exhibition, you'll be shocked. But when he came in, the man said, look, the first thing I think I need to do is to do the primary obligation of the SNA. Rally members have an, and Mr. Oshinowo did that. I mean, Mr. Laku was chairman of the exhibition. I was the secretary. We achieved the law with that show. Now, with that show, was able to raise some money. Now he knew he had money in the account. Then he can now begin to move around for policy development for the arts. And he did that a lot. He was constantly in touch with the National Gallery of Art, developing ideas and all that. That's how to grow the industry. Not just by sitting down in your studio and expect as government will just call you and say, send us your account number, and then they pay some 50,000 naira into your account. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work like that in any country, whether in America, whether in the US, all these countries that we always cite as examples. What we see are the final, what I can call refined stages of their development. That's what we see. And that was what we use to compare the processes that we are still going through. They are not the same thing. The processes and the final stage cannot be the same. You understand? It's not as if artists are not suffering in America now. Artists suffer in America. We saw them when we went there. In London, artists suffer. In South Africa, I saw suffering artists. I saw suffering artists in Austria. You understand? But all of us will start citing the examples of America as if America is just heaven. America is not heaven. America has its own problem, artistic problem. The only advantage that America has over Nigeria is that America has been able to create their structure. Apart from private galleries, there are also government galleries.
Okay.
If the artists do not come together to be able to push that to government may not see the seriousness in creating an infrastructure that is called the National Gallery. Maybe what the government will be thinking is that we have created the National Gallery as a parastatal. But the question now is, the parastatal and the infrastructure, are they the same thing? No, they are not the same thing. So let me just stop there.
Wow. So, as in, do you know that from all these things that you are saying, like I have a lot of questions written down already that if I just continue to ask, we are not going to leave this session today. We are going to spend like 5 hours. But I think for the bigger picture, there are still questions I'm going to ask you again. Maybe not on the Instagram live, maybe on the one-on-one interview we are planning later. Yes, sir. Okay, so I want to delve a little because I know also that sir, is it what degree did you go for at Lautech, my alma mater?
PhD.
Okay, the PhD. Okay, sir. So I want to ask.
Okay.
The art schools in Nigeria, sir, do you think they have any impact on the artists that they are producing? I don't want to have any impact. Yes, I do not want to use, because I just mentioned that Lautech is my alma mater, and I know that I can see some people that went to Lautech already here. In fact, let me say it. I was not taught art in Lautech.
Yeah.
I was not trained to be an artist in Lautech. I was only trained to pass. Yeah. And did I even pass? Like paintings that, like, I was not trained. I was trained at Universal Studios of Art in 2012 to be an artist. Yeah. And then I was in 400 level. So I've had, it almost seemed like 4 years were wasted before getting to that point where there was a switch. So, sir, what do you think about the art schools in Nigeria? Most people are just thrown to study art, because a lecturer once told me, because I got late to the examination hall and asked, what course? What department? I said, FAA, Fine and Applied. I said, your mates are doing, they are succeeding as in medical, whatever. You don't have any ambition. That was what the man told me. He said, you don't have any, but go and sit down somewhere. Yeah. So, sir, what do you think about the art schools in Nigeria?
Well, let me begin by saying that the lecturer who said that was only reacting out of ignorance. He was ignorant.
Okay.
And we encounter many of them when we sit them down and we start talking. Do you know many of them don't know that the clothes they wear is a product of art? They don't know that the plates they use when they want to eat, they are product of art. They don't know that the shoes they wear, they are product of art. So they don't understand. And all the simply people like that, what they need, I've encountered them. I mean, I remember I was given an assignment to hold a meeting with a particular bank who was going to sponsor an exhibition. This bank didn't see any reason why they had to sponsor the exhibition. But when I came in, when I engaged them for just 30 minutes, that day they made up their mind they were going to drop 1 million naira for the sponsorship. These are people who never knew any jack about art. So ignorance is always at play. Now, concerning the art school. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. Yes.
Concerning the art schools, I will not agree that they are not teaching people. They are teaching people. One thing you need to realize is that the philosophical focus of each school is different from the other.
Okay.
Ife is different from Yabatek. Yabatek is different from Ahmadu Bello University. Ahmadu Bello University is different from Adeyemi College of Education. Adeyemi College of Education is different from Lautech.
Okay.
Each of them has a focus. And so that is why the way you are trained in Lautech will be totally different from the way you are trained in Adeyemi College of Education. I'm just citing examples. Now,
Yes,
let me break it down. In Lautech, you are meant to be trained to become, even as an artist, an art technologist, as the name connotes. do you understand?
Okay. Yes.
So even when you are approaching art, before, during, or after your training, you are supposed to approach art from technological point of view. Okay. In Ife, at Ife, the motto of Ife is for learning and culture. As a fine art student or graduate, when you leave Ife, by the time you finish, you must be able to approach art from the point of culture.
Okay.
So these are philosophies that are established in school, but each of them also has a process. I mean, you can be a graduate of fine art from Ife and you are still not strong in drawing. It is possible. But then if they ask you to come and articulate your work, if you are unable to articulate it, then that is not the fault of the school, it's your fault. Whereas, how can you go to Yabatek, you graduate from Yabatek and you don't know how to draw, or any polytechnic for that matter? Then that means you have a problem. It's not the school that has a problem.
Okay.
The second stage is that there's no art school in Nigeria that purposely teaches you to become an artist. You are trained to become a responsible person who at the end of school will be able to take care of yourself, whether you have a job or not.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two is that there's a process to artistic learning.
Okay.
You have to learn, which is what you do in school. Then towards the end of your schooling and shortly after you graduate, you unlearn. Then after graduation, you relearn.
Okay.
So it is learn, unlearn, and relearn. And that's why in most cases, when you leave Lautech, you'll be where you have been properly trained and you have your certificate, you now go and look for a Universal Studios of Art where you can unlearn and relearn.
Unlearn and relearn. Okay.
If you now leave Universal Studio and you still cannot paint, I don't know where you want to go and learn your painting. So you do not blame. Do you know why you shouldn't be able to blame art schools? Because if you leave a particular art school and you are blaming the school that you are not so good after graduating, you will still see somebody in your class who also finished along with you and is doing very well.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So if you blame the school for not training that person who is not good very well, we still blame the school for overtraining somebody who is not extremely good. The individual contribution to learning and development is also very important. I have seen that in school, some students don't pay attention, but they will blame their lecturers for their failures.
Wow.
It has happened a lot. I've seen it. When we were in school, we used to engage our lecturer, and I've told this story before. Professor Campbell, who's in the US now, I remember this man would just come to the class. He was teaching us painting and drawing. This man would just come to the class and then give you the assignments, just talk a little, and go back to his office. Now, that was strange to me because I was coming with the background of a polytechnic graduate, where everything would be broken down into every bit and pieces for you. That was not happening in the university. So, and I needed an answer to that. So, I went to Mr. Campbell's office. Now, Professor Campbell, I went to his office and I said, sir, I want to ask a question. He said, go ahead. Why is it that you just come to the class, you just paraphrase and then you leave? You don't break it down properly for us? You know what the man said? He said, number one, I'm not here to teach you. I'm here to lecture. Number two, how many are you in the class? I said, we are 33. He said, I'm not looking for 33 artists after graduating. I'm looking for maximum 3.
Wow.
That after school, I'll keep hearing their names.
About them.
So you have to decide whether you want to belong into that group of 3 or not. That's up to you. Leave my office.
Wow.
Then I left. So that day, I told myself I needed to work extra hard. And it's on record that when we receive assignments, I go extra mile to produce my work.
Wow.
You understand? And at the end of the day, I was the best student.
Wow.
So every student in an academic environment must be able to determine what he has gone to do in school. Don't forget that a lot of people will be involved in different kinds of activities that they will abandon their primary assignments. I was an activity person when I was in school, but I never missed my deadline of submission. Even though at times when I submit my work, it may be wet. Yes, but I will submit. I've never gone to beg any lecturer to say that I'm sorry because my work is not ready yet. No, it won't happen. I will submit. So the artists themselves should look inward instead of casting aspersions on the art, art schools. And that's my submission.
All right, sir. Okay, someone is saying that what would you say about the fact that fine arts in OAU was disaccredited? Yeah. Just hearing that, I didn't know.
I wasn't hearing that for the first time.
Wow.
It is normal when standard falls. Of course, the NUC has the power to disaccredit you. And then, because there are requirements for every school of art, there are requirements. The moment you can't meet up with those requirements, naturally, they take accreditation away from you. But if you are ever able to produce all the requirements, you'll be accredited. Anyway, the good news is that recently, I think about it, less than a month ago, the school has now been accredited because they've now they've been accredited again. I can tell you that on good authority.
Okay.
So
another person is saying so what's the point of spending 3 to 4 years in art school? I actually spent 6 years in art school to go back to a studio. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? I said someone is saying, what's the point of spending 3 to 4 years in art school to go back to a studio? I said I spent 6 years plus strike.
Yeah.
So basically, so what's the point of going to the art school when you're not going to be? I think you have answered when you're still going back to a studio to learn.
No, if they are asking about, let me ask a question. Is it everybody who studied law that eventually end up practicing law? The answer is no. The answer is no. And don't forget, the practice of art varies just like you have in other professions as well. It's not everybody who studied law that will end up in defending cases in court. Some of them become company secretaries, or some of them are into estate management and all that. So in art, it's not compulsory that you graduate and then begin to practice. You are trained to become a universal man in a way that you can practice in every area where you find yourself. You can be a good administrator. You can be a good manager. You can decide that. I remember in our school days, somebody came to me and said, look, when I finish from this school, I'm not going to practice. I'm going to be selling artworks.
Okay.
I'm going to be selling art materials. Some people go to art school because they want to run a gallery. It's not compulsory that everybody must practice art.
Sure.
It takes, law, it takes the die-hard, lawyers to be practicing law, to go to court and face the judge. The same thing in art. It takes those who are die-hard to practice art and remain in the studio. And that's why anybody who does that should be commended, because it's not easy out there.
The person is saying that that's not the question. The structure of studying BA in the fine arts. I think what she's trying to say is, so you taught yourself after paying for fees. Okay, I think she should restructure the question so that
if the person can restructure the question, but
I think she should also restructure the question.
When you graduated and went to an art school, as a lawyer, when you graduate from your university, wherever you study law, you still go and spend 1 year in law school. Because that's where you face the rigor of the profession. So it's the same thing when you graduate as an art student. You now go to a particular studio where you can retrain yourself. The same thing in medicine. When you graduate, you still go for internship. So what is happening is not just peculiar to art alone. It's peculiar to all professions.
That's true, sir. Yes, that's true. Because I remember that I interned at Universal Studios. Even after doing my IT there in 2012, I still interned for about 2 years in Universal Studios. Yes. Okay,
and you got better.
Yeah. Yes. I did. Okay, so swinging from the art school question, I want to ask this question: how should an artist handle criticism? How do I, as an artist, handle criticism?
As an artist, if people criticize you and you don't like it, that means you can never grow. You can never grow. When I used to, handle a column in the Guardian newspaper, I developed a long list of enemies among my colleagues who are artists, because many of them wanted to do a kind of write-up that will praise them. And I'm not a praise singer. I am a critic. So what I did as a critic was to look at the strength of your work and also look at the weaknesses and then point out the two. So what I will expect any artist to do when somebody criticizes you is to tell yourself those areas that have been pointed out to you. You go back and work on it. That's one of the reasons why it took Araism 7 years to germinate. Okay. Because the early works I did were heavily criticized by my friend. They didn't even spare me at all. And because I know this was, telling the truth, I have to go back to the studio and then begin to redevelop again. So every artist should be able to soak in criticism. Yes, and then redevelop himself through that. Okay. If I look at you now and I say that, Tolu, You know, when you use glasses, you don't look beautiful. Somebody who is not deep will now start fighting me. But somebody who is deep will go back, look at a mirror. What is wrong with these glasses?
With the glasses.
Is it the glasses or my face?
Okay.
If it's the glasses, let me go and change it. And then you change it. And then maybe the next time the person starts saying, wow, you look so beautiful on these glasses. You know that you have listened to the criticism and then readjusted yourself. Okay. And that means that that particular criticism has been defeated.
Okay.
So you now move on. And you are going to continue to encounter criticism until you breathe your last on earth as an artist. That's how art works. I saw Professor Rose. If you saw his criticism of Pablo Picasso's work, in fact, he took Picasso to the cleaners. Yeah, he said, I mean, those are the later work of Picasso. He said the work of Picasso, and he mentioned the particular work that looks like a kindergarten work, and it is not because Picasso is that good. It's because at the point of producing this particular work, he was tired and ran out of ideas.
Wow.
That's a professional critic. Criticizing Pablo Picasso.
Wow.
Imagine even a student who just left university. Let somebody tell him that. Will he take it kindly?
No, sir.
He won't. So and if there are no criticism, there can never be artistic development. That's true, because you just be a local champion. You believe you are the best, that what you have done is the best, and you eventually become a laughing stock. So that's my own take on that.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Let me see. Okay, so I have two more questions, and I'm going to let you rest. We have taken your time a lot today. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us the opportunity to do that. Okay, so we are in the era of digital art.
Okay. A
lot of people are going so much into digital art, digital painting. Do you think this era has an impact on the acceptance of Araism or of art generally? What do you think the impact of digital art has been on art generally, then on Araism?
Yeah. One thing that is never static is creativity.
Okay.
Art constantly evolves, and there's an era for everything. There was before we go to the era of painting on canvas. There was an era of painting on board. You know, painting on board. I've seen works of Oshinowo, Olaku painting on board. I have done painting on board. You understand? But at the time, that era, was phased out, and a lot of people just embraced canvas. There was an era of different kind of media on paper. It could be pastel, it could be pencil, it could be pen and ink, and so on and so forth. So what it means is a true sign of the evolution of art. So we're in the era of digital art. Each person, each artist will have to determine what medium he wants to practice. You understand? But what I've always told people is this: any form of art that you want to produce, don't produce it because other people are producing it. Produce it because that is what is coming from your heart. Because you have to be original. If you are not original, if everybody is doing digital art and you now go there, by the time that era is phased out, you have phased out with it as an artist. Unless you are so creative that you can easily adapt.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
I've seen there are different kinds of digital art that I've seen. I've seen people who have done fantastic. In fact, there's a guy called Kamaldeen Salahuddin.
Okay.
I met the guy on Facebook before. He now took part in collaboration stuff. Twice he has won, prizes of that competition. He made effective use of digital to produce fantastic works. And I've seen some that it will make you hate digital art completely. Just like when you talk about installation, don't forget there are different kinds of installation. I've seen installations that I condemned in my critiquing in the newspaper. I saw the work in Abuja during Araism African Regional Arts Exhibition and Summit. That should be 2007, 2008. No, 2008. I saw and I condemned it because it does not portray any good sense at all. Whereas I've seen, an installation done by what's this lady's first name? Nwosu Igbo. I think Ngozi Nwosu Igbo. I think that's her name. Okay. This lady is so good that when I saw the installation at the German Cultural Center, I fell in love with the work. So digital work, the beauty of it or the ugliness of it will depend on how the artist handles it.
Okay.
You understand? And then it's a trend. It's a trend. And like I've always told people, it's like a carnival.
Someone is saying, what about artists that paint on glass?
Yes, but it's also is a branch of art. Is a special medium. As long as you can handle that medium very well, I don't see anything wrong in it. I mean, you know the stories of stained glass now.
Yes.
Go and look at Yusuf Grillo's work. Fantastic work in stained glass. So glass is a medium. As long as you can handle it, and don't forget, glass also have several derivatives. It's under that glass that you have mosaic. Don't forget, mosaic is made of hair, So it depends on how you handle it. If you are telling me about glass art, what I'm seeing actually is Yusuf Grillo's stained glass, and for me, that's an apogee of creativity. So I'm not going to be seeing somebody who is doing something extremely lower than that. I'm not going to read that. I mean, in every medium of art that you engage, you have the peak. You also have the ones at the lowest rung of the ladder. I'm not going to be using the people at the lowest rung of the ladder as an example. I will not. I'd rather go for the best so I can achieve the best as well.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, sir. So on my end, I don't know if anybody still has any questions. People have asked a lot of questions already. Okay, so this is a question I usually ask everybody. Okay. Who are your biggest influences? The reason I usually ask this, sir, it's about mentorship. Yeah. Because for me, mentorship is very important. Yeah. Because I realized that a lot of things I've been able to achieve and learn. Yeah. I learned by reason of mentorship. So I want to know who your biggest influences are. Then another reason I like asking the question is, I'm of a generation where people like to call themselves self-taught artists. People like to feel like nobody taught them. They're just here on their own. They do not like... I think my generation just lacks respect for the older generation. That's my... I beg to be corrected, but that's my own take, that my generation lacks respect for the older generation. So I would also like to hear your take, your opinion about mentorship. Then tell us who your biggest influences are, because I believe they are your mentors too.
Like somebody said, there's no self-made man. You cannot be a self-made man, because like Yorubas will say, Eja ne eja nje sanra.
Then
fish feeds on fish. You understand? So ola eyan leyan fi mi. You cannot just rise on your own. It's not possible. So I'm not going to talk about my biggest influences. I'm going to talk about my influences, because they come in different layers. In my secondary school days, it was my art teacher, Mr. Olawale Dixon, who told me that, look, Mufu, if you want to, because he has seen what I was doing, he said, if you know you want to really combine intellectualism with your artistic prowess, go to the polytechnic first, and then later go to university. And for you to do that, you must make sure you pass your mathematics and English language. Don't have a P in any of them.
Okay.
So he influenced me to study very, very hard. That's why the fact that I hate mathematics with passion, I was able to, grab my C6, and then of course my English language as well. So I went to poly because of his advice, and then eventually went to the university.
Okay.
That's one. While I was still in secondary school, I have somebody teaching me outside of school. That's Man Alafia that I mentioned earlier. Man Alafia was the one who took me to Yaba Tech for the first time in my life.
Okay.
He was the one who took me to University of Lagos for the first time. And he was the one who took me to there's a technical school in not far from Yaba Tech. He was the one who took me there for the first time.
Yes.
And the inspiration I received from there, the inspiration I received from that encounter was a kind of firing up that I have that no matter what happens, I must not stop at secondary school. I must go to higher institution, and then what I will study will be fine art. It's either fine art or nothing else. That's an inspiration. I told you when I went to Ethiopia to learn painting on animal skin, I told you earlier what Lemaguya said and what Shishagun Lushola said. That's an inspiration as well. They influenced me a lot. Then, when I got to the university, let me start from the poly. In the polytechnic, all the lecturers who taught me are great influences. They all have great influences on me. I mean, that's why I met Professor Rom Kalilu for the first time, who was teaching us artistry, until I now went to become a student again at Lautech. You understand? And the man has never changed. The quality that he has always possessed is what he still showed it today. So that's also an influence. Do you understand? Then when I got to the university, most of the lecturers who taught me also contributed to the influences that I gained. And then among some of the students who are my classmates, there are some of them who also provided influences. So it is the general collation of all these influences that led to my development as an artist.
Okay, sir.
And I give commendation to all of them.
Okay.
All of them.
Okay, but you not okay. So what is your take on mentorship?
Mentorship is very crucial.
Okay,
it's very, very crucial. Every artist needs a mentor. The problem I have with the current generation, and I must tell you, is that I'm talking from personal experience.
Okay, sir.
Some of the artists of this generation, let me say those who graduated in the last 10 years, like you said, many of them are very disrespectful. Many of them do not like to give credit to whom credit is due. They learn under this person, they will not want to acknowledge. Imagine somebody trained under Olaku, and we go outside, we not want to acknowledge that I trained under Olaku. What does it cost you, for God's sake? You understand? Or some people who train under Mufu Onifade, and then maybe Mufu Onifade, apart from training them, even introduce them to one or two people that can patronize them. And then when they go to that man, they badmouth Mufu Onifade, and even make the person feel that all the work that Mufu Onifade is doing, I'm the one doing it. That's why the fact that everybody knows that I do my work myself. I'm not the kind of person who will give my work to anybody to produce for me. So these are issues that I have, but every artist needs a mentor. And that's why I love that program that's been done at Third Pyramid Art Gallery, when he started what he called mentoring moment.
Mentor, yes.
I love that program. I love that program because it speaks a lot about how you can never be an island to yourself as an artist.
True.
You cannot be. When people say I'm a self-taught artist, it's a lie now. There's no self-taught artist now. Let's be realistic. How can you be self-taught? You can never be self-taught now. There are inspirations, there are influences, there are people who you learn from in one way or the other. I never received tutelage under, for instance, Kolede Oshinowo. But you know that I used to copy a lot of Kolede Oshinowo in my younger days. I never received direct tutelage under Josiah Ajiboye. But I used to copy the cartoons of Josiah Ajiboye to be able to train myself as a grown-up artist. Yes. You know, so these are also part of the influences. And anytime I have the opportunity, I acknowledge it. I went to Baba Josiah Ajiboye one day and I told him that, Daddy, do you know that those cartoons you used to produce in the 70s and 80s, you know, I used to copy them a lot. And the man was laughing. He said, yes, every kid artist would do that. They copy from the master before they now develop on their own. I copied Oshinowo, you know, to build my... I'm talking about Polytechnical.
Yes, sir.
Copied Oshinowo like mad. Copy Shino Yusuf like mad. Copy some of the artists of that generation. You understand? And then when you now develop, you now stop doing that. You develop it and then came on your own creativity and originality. That's how it works.
Thank you so much, sir. We are so grateful. Like, I'm going to, God, thank you so much. We have just 1 minute left, so I want to say bye to everybody. Thank you, everybody, you for watching. For those who missed the first part, it's on my Instagram TV. Then this video is going to be on the YouTube channel. Just search for the narrative. It's going to be there in case you missed it. I learned so much. Thank you so much, sir. Like, I could never thank you enough. We are very grateful. So it's time to say goodbye. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tolu. God bless you.
Amen. Bye. Thank you, sir. We learned a lot. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, sir. Bye-bye.
All right. Yeah, bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.